Reminds me. Mute. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. It's the home straight. This is it. Then we can have beers. Oh, hang on. Some of you are already ahead of us. Right. So, yeah, my name's Paul, and this is my colleague Jim. I'm from Editshare, based in the UK. Basically, we specialise in shared storage, video servers, media asset management. Our core values really revolve around our storage. So we specialise in storage for any kind of editor. Could be Avid, Adobe, Final Cut, DaVinci, all of those. We're agnostic to what editor you use. And the fundamental thing we do is allow you to be able to share media and share projects on your NLEs without having to have individual drives on your desk or in a cupboard or wherever it might be. So predominantly we supply to post-production, production, government, military, all sort of manners of the industry, depending on if they use video or not. If they use video and they use editing software, then generally that's where we will be. So we started 16 years ago. This is our founder and CEO, Andy Liebman. He was a film producer in his own right. This is a picture of him in Africa where he's doing a chimpanzee documentary. But he also did some work for NASA doing a replication of a Mars atmosphere in the middle of the desert in America, in Nevada. So they were just practicing doing this. He filmed it all. And then when he came back, he wanted to edit it, and he didn't want to buy an Avid Unity because he didn't have the money to do that. It was a very short budget. So instead, he decided to spend $35 million and develop his own shared storage system. So a bit of fuzzy logic, but, you know, he did it. So 16 years ago, he started with this project, and then after he'd made the product, the Editshare shared storage, he then went to NAB, and that was our first NAB 16 years ago, that was the entire team then, 3 people and a couple of developers in the background busy working away. So basically what we do, we make award-winning software. We started off with storage, sharing projects, sharing media. Then we went into media asset management. So you could do basically metadata tagging, sequence creation, proxy creation, all those kinds of cool things. Then that led to automation for automating repetitive tasks like moving, deleting, uploading to other FTP sites or to AWS, things like that, and transcoding. And also quick turnaround remote editing as well. And then finally with QScan, we have our automated QC, and we acquired them 2 years ago. A couple of our awards we've had over the last couple of years. We got the Emmy last year, which was for multi-camera, which we shared with our friends from Avid. So that's the Editshare half, that's the Avid half. So you see, we all do get on, really. It's not all...
They just look older than we do.
Yeah, they do. A few of our customers we have across the globe, really. LGU in Korea, that was a fairly recent one. 32 channels of ingest and storage and MAM. From Doha Supreme Committee, which are basically shooting all on red and doing 4K workflows with DaVinci for the World Cup in 2022. And then news agency Nation Media in Kenya, that was a recent refresh in December this year. And the national broadcaster of Poland, TVN. So we've got quite a few customers from all different types of the industry. So I've got a couple of little instances and then I'm finished, honest. Then we can go into the real stuff. So Pro TV, they've got a couple of our storage nodes. So 4 nodes in total with high availability, and they use Pebble Beach for playout, and it's all integrated with Editshare storage. Nation Media, they've got EFS 300, a small 3U rack unit we have, 8 channel of ingest, and then 336 terabytes of nearline, so which we're finding more and more now. People are using online is their main storage, but they have a much larger nearline, so they can actually park projects on nearline and then do their online projects, and then as space becomes available, they'll then move their nearline back to the online, do their edit, and so on and so forth. It's a much cheaper way of dealing with things. They also have MOS integration with Octopus Newsroom as well. LGU, as I said, 24 servers, 32 channels, a lot of storage, and it was quite a tough job to deliver to South Korea from Boston in the US, then to the UK, but we did it in the end. And they use it for all their internal communications, so they actually have their own channels internally in the factory. So they could be classed as corporate more than anything. Then the recent one, NHK in Japan, they're doing an 8K project because they like doing things like that. So they're using quite a lot of our storage to basically do multiple channels of 8K video for editing and for playout. And that's me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand you over to Jim. Jim's going to show you some of our, just the most basic stuff that we do, which is Adobe on Editshare storage, just as an example, showing media sharing, and at the end he'll probably do a little bit of Flow media asset management, show you what we do with that. So I'll hand you over. Let me mic you up. Hang on a minute. Yeah. I wasn't in this department.
You're never a sound man, were
No.
you?
There you go.
Right, so I'll take you through basically how the storage works. The Editshare storage is all hardware RAID protected, so we run a RAID 6 throughout each of the chassis. When you have multiple chassis combined together, we can then do a vertical stripe in software across the chassis. So by the time you get to 3 nodes, we can fail one of those nodes completely and not lose any media, because you've gone data parity and you can reconstruct on the fly. So it means that you can continue recording, you can continue playing back, even though a third of your storage has actually failed or burst into flames or whatever event has taken place. Once you've got this big block of storage, how you deploy it really depends very much on how your company works. Most companies we find now will have a mix of editing platforms. You may use Avid and Resolve for grading and Pro Tools for your audio sweetening. You may be a Premiere house where you're cutting in Adobe Premiere, you're using Audition and maybe After Effects with that, or you may be using all of those different applications together. Now, as a storage vendor, we don't side with any one particular software application. We've had a great deal of success in education for that very principle. We don't favour one application over another. So you can have your long form work being cut on Media Composer in one department, your promos and your web people working on Premiere somewhere else, your 4K and your 8K grading suites working on Resolve, all connected to the same Editshare storage. And if you need more storage, you simply add more nodes. So you add more nodes, you get more capacity, you get more bandwidth, because the entire array of disks is all used to provide that capacity, that bandwidth for the system. So once you've got your big block, you divide it up into episodes or projects, whatever you want to call your shared folders, and that's what these tools on the right hand side are for. So if you're working on an Avid style soap opera or something like that, click on the Avid style. We will do a complete emulation of an Avid Nexus system. So that means that we'll support the latest versions of Media Composer, whether it's Ultimate 2018, 2019, the new one just announced at NAB. And we can do that and provide bin locking and project sharing with your Media Composers. If you're not an Avid house, then we can offer you unmanaged or managed spaces. So an unmanaged space means everybody who's allowed to access that share has equal rights. So I can put material up, a Paul can change the name or delete the material. If we want to go to a more structured environment, we can use a managed space where if I put material up, Paul can read it, but he can't change the name and he can't delete it. And if you want to go to an even more tightly controlled, we have what are called ACL spaces. So it's an access control level. I'll make a space, within that I'll make a series of folders, and I can say that Paul has access to this folder, but not that folder. I'll have access to this one and that one, but not this one. So you can mix and match the levels of security you want, from something that's very free and open, maybe you're working 4 guys on a short film, to something where you're a corporate like an airline or a bank or somebody like that, where you have to have strict control over who can see what. Or maybe you're doing promos for one of the Hollywood film agencies, whereas only the Belgian guys can see this folder, only the French guys can see this folder, to keep everything separate. The level of security you want is entirely up to you. And if you want to link that into Active Directory single sign-on, we can do that at the same time. So what does it look like for the guys who have got to use it? From the server, we give you a web page with all of the tools on it. And, whoops, get the mouse to behave. The application you use to load that is called Editshare Connect. So I've logged in, and these are all of the media spaces available to me. I can choose which protocol I mount the spaces by. I can use SMB or AFP, traditional IT protocols, or I can use EFS, which is our own native protocol. The advantage of our own native protocol is it will allow you to probably put one more layer of XDCAM 50 on that timeline compared with SMB or AFP. It's a more efficient protocol, more engineered to video, but we still support all of the older IT protocols as well. Right. Within this application, I can give individuals what we call limited admin over a project. So say Paul was doing the Isle of Man TT races, I could give him limited admin and he could add additional users to that space from his desktop without having to go back to the server to do this. He could increase the quota to allow more storage to capture more material and manage that individual project. So you can have different teams managing their own low-level idea of what's going on within the storage. We have a separate space within the Editshare structure where we can put project files. So if you're working in an Avid environment, project sharing and bin locking come from within the application. But if you're working in Premiere or Edius or one of the other nonlinear editors, your project file is a simple file that you need to know who's got hold of that file, who's locking it, who's opened it. So if I go on here and click on that Danmon demo project, it will open up and then the padlock will change to green for me, but red for everybody else, so they will know which project I've got. So if you're in a small post house, you'll be able to see who's working on the Jaguar project, who's working on the Mercedes project, so that when people come in or people want to move from one project to another, you can quickly go from one to another. So if I click on this, it will say, do you want to take ownership of it? Yes. Now everybody else will see that I have ownership of that, and within Premiere, it will come up in here for me. Or it will on a good day. Okay, so where's my demo project? Okay, strange. Right. Let's do that again. That's okay. Sometimes with a virtual machine it can be a bit hesitant. So this is the project timeline that I've got in there. I'm now playing that high resolution material from my Editshare server. Now, on top of simply allowing people to do that, anybody else who looks on Editshare Connect will see that I now have ownership of that project, and they will see a red padlock. Okay. So we're not breaking the rules of physics. We can't have two people in the same Adobe project at the same time. It doesn't support that. But it does give you a simple way of tracking who else in the facility is working on which projects. And it worked just as well with After Effects projects or things like that. Sorry, question?
This also means that you have a color grader and a sound mixer that could work almost parallel with the project.
Yeah.
But do you cope by the proxy files or some work files?
At the moment, everything I've shown you is online. We haven't done anything in proxy.
Yeah, so you don't have that then on your local computer, the color grader or the sound engineer?
No, I don't have it loaded on here, but I could load up After Effects and bring that project in. But normally in an Adobe world, when you move from a Premiere timeline into Audition or you go from Premiere into After Effects, you'll use the Adobe tool to pull that project over into there. Yeah. When you do that, it will still say who is owning the project, because I'll have opened it in Premiere, then gone over into After Effects. They'll still both be running on the same computer, so we'd still track the ownership that way.
Does Editshare in any way communicate with the Premiere saying that this is the scratch disk, this is the...
When you...
These are the... Because you said that now you have projects in...
Yeah, when I start a new project, I can say I want this project to be on my local hard drive, or I want this project to be on Editshare. If I say I want it to be on Editshare and I want the project to be in that particular projects folder, then we get this interface. If I just say I want it to be somewhere locally, you won't see it in here. So it's really for a mixed environment where you've got a lot of people using Premiere all on the same shared storage, and they want to be able to say, is somebody else in that project already? Can I pick it up? So maybe in a news organisation, or you're doing short trailers or something like that, where you've got a lot of people who may be jumping from one content to another piece of content. Sure.
Is it two-way communication, or do you have to open it through Editshare Connect, or can you open the project in Premiere?
If I open it in Premiere, Editshare Connect isn't going to know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's at the moment it's one way. So what we do from here is we actually trigger it, and then it will open that project.
So the way the workflow is as it is in Premiere regularly. It's like you do your ingest or your insert.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Import.
Import your material.
Yeah, in the same way, and you choose choose where you store stuff the same way as you always been.
Yeah, the only difference is you'll put your shared media in one folder on the Editshare, and you put your projects in this special project folder so that we can monitor the ownership.
Yeah.
Now, on top of what I've shown you here, Editshare has a MAM system that ships on the same boxes as we do the storage. If you've got a small Editshare with 16 drives, that can support up to 10 simultaneous MAM users. And those were the clients that Paul showed you earlier. So those are things like Flow Browse, which allows you to see proxy video of all of the various things that are coming up. I'm not sure why my monitor's gone quiet.
Probably because it's split screen, yeah.
Yeah, that's better. Okay. So in here I can put up pieces of video, play through, find a particular shot I want, go in and add markers, add comments to the markers. And then from here, I can drag and drop that directly into, if I get enough space on the screen, drag and drop that directly into a project, at which point it will import the markers from the asset management system and link to the high-res in Premiere. So if I bring that in, and we look at that clip, okay. Which one was it? So in here I've got a blue marker and a green marker, and if I go in here and load that up, show you the markers tab in here, there are my markers coming straight over into Premiere. Similarly, if I want to go in and take a short piece of something from here, let's say we want a little bit of this fuzzy lights, just go in there, that's enough out there. I can go back and drag that directly. Let's go demo. Yeah. It's a lot easier with two screens. drag and drop that in.
Two screens next to each other.
Yeah, and then you see I've got the Adobe symbol for a subclip, and that will be that little piece that I brought in. Now you can go even further in here and start to build up an entire timeline in here. So if I look at this transport edit, what I've done is I've just picked a number of subclips, put them together to make my rough cut. I can now say, right, I want to take that transport edit, drop that into Premiere, and if I make that disappear, and load up my transport edit. There's the rough cut that I put in there. So this means that you can have people just putting together, maybe it's your sports producer or your news producer of the day saying, I want that shot, I want that shot, I want that shot. Put them together, see if they run roughly the right time, take them into Premiere, then add your voiceover, things like that to complete the production. And the beauty of it then is you're not paying $40, $50, $60 a month for somebody to have a Premiere seat to do that. They're doing it within the Editshare with a proxy. And they can do it on a simple laptop computer, office computer. You're not paying for a big expensive machine to run Premiere. So it's a much lower cost of getting that. And you've got that same workflow wraparound, whether you work in Media Composer, whether you work in Resolve, particularly with Resolve 16 now, we bring all the metadata across as well, and sequences. So Avid, Adobe, Final Cut Pro, 5, 6, 7, 10, or whichever version you want of Final Cut. We'll play nicely with all of those with the asset management and bring them in.
You can have mixed as well, so you don't have to have just one type of editor on there. You could have a mixture of any of those.
Yeah, your soap opera can be running on Media Composer, your promo department, your web department may be on Premiere, your grading suite on Resolve, but they're all using the asset management to drag and drop material directly in. And the only thing we ask is within Flow, you tell it which particular NLE you want to work with. And if it's Resolve, you just put it to Final Cut 10, and it will bring the metadata across from there.
And Pro Tools as well. You could do sessions and use it on Pro Tools.
Yeah. Right. Now, Flow Browser is where we started when we first got into asset management. We then had a number of requests to expand the services we could do within asset management. The first one was, could we have a web interface? So here's the web interface. You can customize the banner and the color. So JCB, the big construction company, are Editshare customers. So guess what? Their banner is yellow and it has a digger on it. So at least you know you've signed into JCB. Oh
dear.
Didn't expect that, did we? Yeah, let's try again. Don't you just love Google? Right, as we were saying. So this is Airflow. So we're looking at the same proxies, the same metadata that we're looking at in the client where we did the drag and drop. But now I can be remote. In terms of security, I only need to open one port to access this. So you can just tell your router, allow access on this one single port, which makes it very secure. It's an HTTPS service, so it's secure, use certificates, and it's encrypted. And then in here, I can go in and look for my material. So if I go back and look at that same material I had before, and just pick one of my clips, let's go for something more exciting. Right, the lady getting on the bus. I can see her getting on the bus. I can see her getting on the bus full screen. I can go along to a particular location and say, right, I want to put a marker in there, and I can add my markers just like I was working. So you can have people contributing remotely just using a web browser. So you don't have to keep remote software updated or things like that. They can contribute. And it means that, say, in education or in an international company, people can be looking at that material from a different time zone. They don't need access to a building. You can run 24/7. You can run from any location on the planet, as long as you've got a network connection.
Can you add any comments to the markers?
Yeah. So if we put that in and we go, And then everything I've put in there, the location, things, all of those become searchable as well. So for example, somewhere on here, I've got a clip with a Harley Davidson motorbike in. So if I go search for Harley, there's the clip and it's found the word there. Similarly, if it was a name in the marker or anything like that, it would come up and play that. So it's a fast way of looking at your material. Although we initially designed this for just review and approve for soap operas and dramas, it's now become a way of bringing material in, taking material out. Because on any of these clips, if I give that user the privileges, they can download the media. So I've done my rushes here in Oslo, but I've got the guy who's going to be doing the directing of the edit and things like that in London. He can look at that media, he can download the media, either the full resolution or a proxy directly there. And if it's Avid style media, he'll get an Avid MXF that he could then edit locally in Media Composer. If he's working with Premiere, he'll get whatever the original format was, whether it's MXF, QuickTime, whatever, and do the edit there. We also give you the ability to upload material. So simply drag a file in here, add metadata to the file, and bring the material back. So maybe you've got students on location, they can upload their material, or the finished material, or just the edit. Or you've got a news crew on site at some disaster, they can cut their 1-minute piece, just use the web browser to push the content back to the studio. So the whole idea is this web portal has now allowed you to have 24/7 access to your Editshare system from wherever you are, but within safe, sensible IT security to do those things. Right, let's go back. Okay.
You mentioned earlier something about 2 levels of storage. From what you're working on?
Yeah, online and nearline.
Yeah.
Nearline,
Yeah.
The way
is that does this system or the airflow does that work?
that the airflow will allow you to look at anything you've made a proxy for.
Okay.
So if you've got material that you've ingested to your online, and your online could be a tier 1 or a tier 2 online. So a tier 1 would be a series of 24 SSDs in a stripe to do 4K, 8K grading work. A tier 2 could be 16 hard drives in a RAID 6 that you're doing your Media Composer, your Final Cut Pro, your HD editing on. Below that would have a nearline, which would be slower speed drives, normally in sets of 24. So you have 200 or 300 terabytes in one of those chassis. Flow will allow you to see all of those, and you can drag and drop from all of those as well, and you'll see all of them in Airflow.
So you don't orphan anything. So when you do a search, if it's on the nearline, it will say it's on the nearline.
Yeah.
You have the option to create a restore
To bring it
to the online.
Yeah. We also do LTO7 and LTO tape libraries that you can connect. And when we put material to tape, we will always make a proxy first. So the idea is Flow is your asset management. You search, find your asset wherever it is. If you need to, you can then restore it from tape, or you can move it from nearline to online, add your metadata to it, and then bring it into your project. So Flow sits as this umbrella over all of your different storage types. They don't have to be all Editshare. You could have an isilon. We'll mount that isilon through SMB, make proxies, and we can tell you where it is on the isilon. You may have material in an AWS cloud somewhere, and we can tell you it's on the cloud and restore that material from the cloud. So once you get into these more complicated workflows with third-party devices, we use an API level integration, and that's the flow automation that Paul was talking about. So if we quit this.
Do you have any kind of integration with visual recognition software or something like that?
We're looking at that. The thing at the moment is we did a couple of trials with facial recognition and things like that. And the sort of horsepower and the kind of computers you need to run those algorithms generally cost more than some of our storage.
Yeah.
So we go in and say, right, your storage price is this much, but the facial recognition software costs this much.
Yeah.
At which point they go, we'll take the storage, thank you.
Ultimately, we're looking at probably acquiring a company that does that because it's cheaper. Yeah,
Will take.
yeah. Because
It does become a
it's
better
lot of
way
work,
to
yeah.
do it. Is
Well, you-
partnership is fine, but then you've got to keep version matching.
But are you talking then just about facial recognition or
No,
maybe object
total
recognition?
AI.
Yeah.
It'll be.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, a lot. AI's been around for many years. You know, I was involved with it over 15 years ago in industrial machine vision.
Yeah.
So the software's been there for some time, and the ability for software to learn, you know, certain traits. So it could recognise the type of car from the grille shape. It could recognise the type of flooring from the pattern and the grain and stuff like that. So it's basically we'll either adopt a third party company that we will work with our API, or we'll develop our own, which would take time and cost money, or we acquire somebody that's already done it and then integrate it that way. That's the kind of way we're looking at it. There's a lot of other of our competitors are talking about AI, but it's not really AI as I see it, and many other people see it. It's kind of a sort of token gesture AI. I think if you're going to do it, you have to do it, you know.
Yeah, it has to work like it does in Chrome. You drag an image in and say, find other images like this. You've got to have that level of complexity.
Or find this
Or,
person.
or
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
so
fine, your tree or
so
something.
over these 3 episodes of this drama, show me every time we used an Alfa Romeo car, every time we had an IBM laptop in Vision, so we could do, right, your product was shown this many times, we'll charge you this much for product recognition.
Yeah, at the moment that's being used by tagging. So
Manually.
yeah, a customer of ours does it with Land Rover. So they basically every click with a Land Rover in, they type Land Rover, and then at the end of a quarter they'll print off, a bit archaic, all of the stills with all the time codes and the dates, and then send that to Land Rover, and Land Rover pay them the money.
A large
for the
amount of
product,
money.
basically. So you know.
At the end of the day, somebody always pays.
Yeah.
So this is flow automation. It doesn't come as standard, whereas the media asset management does. It's an option that you can buy. And it's really for those people who have got into a proxy-based workflow, where they're used to tagging material and things like that. And they want to take some of the more repetitive tasks away, or tasks that will require using somebody else's interface. So the little job I've put up here, we create a custom template, which is the metadata tray under that, and we put some tick boxes in there. So this was for a London-based museum who had off-site storage 20 miles outside London. So we could tick on a particular video that they'd completed. It would then do an FTP transfer to their big IBM box outside London in Slough. It would update the metadata fields for the clip to say when it was transferred, that it was successfully transferred. If it didn't successfully transfer, it wouldn't update the fields. It would then send an email alert to say, we've got problems sending material to the backup site. And for them, it meant that they didn't have to give out the usernames, passwords, IP addresses of their secure storage. And particularly if you're going into something like controlling an Aspera server to send material to New York or Hollywood, or you've got AWS credentials to upload or download material in the cloud. It means that everything stays within the Editshare UI, and those usernames, passwords, all of that secure information is never given to the users, but they can use the service that it provides. So it's a nice way of hiding all of that information, but still giving people simple access. They can click and the stuff goes to New York, or they can click and it goes to their off-site. In terms of education, this is a template we made for student submissions. So the students would log in, they'd drop their work into a watch folder. We'd then take the work, move it to a secure area so they couldn't copy or see what anybody else had done. We'd then check the file format, we'd check the date that the material was delivered. We could then notify the lecturer that these people have submitted on the right date, these people have submitted on the right date but the incorrect folder or the incorrect format. We'd then make proxies of all of those, so the lecturer could come in, he'd get his emails to tell him who'd been good and who'd been bad. He'd see all the proxy videos. He could then go in and add comments and saying, in this edit, the interviewer starts on the left and then halfway through the edit he's on the right, then he's back on the left. You mustn't cross the line when you're cutting an interview edit or something like that. Or it could be a Hollywood promo where they say, you've given 15 seconds to the male lead but only 4 seconds to the female lead. We agreed equal billing. Can you increase the ratio so it's more 50-50 between the two actors, or we can't put the promo out? And it then provides a very useful part of continuing that flow, comfortable layer you've put around your editing and taking it into more workflow-based processes. Okay, one last thing. A little while ago, Editshare bought a company called Lightworks, and we took the Lightworks engine and added it into Flow so that we could edit proxies or we could edit online material with the same tools we had in the Lightworks editor. So here's that same little edit that I was showing you earlier in Premiere, but now I've got it running as an edit here in Flow Story. And I've now got tools like I can add a voiceover and things like that. So if I'm working proxy, I'll still do a full res voiceover. And when I export the sequence from here, I can choose to export a flattened file or just an AAF or an XML that can be reconstructed in Media Composer or Premiere to do the high res edit. So the idea of Airflow and Flow Story is you can use them in-house. So maybe your lawyer needs to view material. He can just use a web browser. He doesn't need to have the rest of the tool set. Or maybe you're cutting something directly in-house online. You can use this and cut with the high resolution material. But you can use those same tools in a remote office in Germany, in Poland, in America, and connect in and just work with the proxies and still be able to edit, lay down voiceovers, add metadata. So it's this idea of your Editshare going from being 8 till 5:30 or 9 till 6 to go 24/7, 365 days a year from wherever you are. But you still have total control over who has access and what roles they play within that. Okay, I think we're done.
Brief overview. We could be here for hours if you wanted to, but I think we should go.
I know there's beer next door and you've all had a long day.
Proxy workflow in
Yeah.
Premiere.
Yeah.
You generate proxies automatically, right?
We generate our own proxies.
Can
what-
I work from your proxies in Premiere?
Generally, no, there's an easier way to do it. What we would suggest is within Premiere, you use the ingest tool,
The proxy workflow there.
yeah, but you ingest those proxies onto the Editshare, yeah? So those proxies then become available through Airflow. So you've got a portal to view them all, download them all. You then do your edit using those proxies. So maybe you're working in 4K or 8K. You make a 20 megabit proxy with Adobe, put it onto the Editshare, download it through Airflow. You're sitting at home in your pajamas, editing over breakfast. Put together your edit. When you're finished, your project file, you go back into Airflow and just upload the project file. And then somebody in the studio can just pick up your project file, open it, relink to the online 4K and 8K media in their big expensive workstation, and then render out your finished project. So there are a couple of white papers on proxy workflows with Media Composer, with Premiere, with other tools on the website that you can simply download, just register and they download.
Because a proxy workflow offline and online is something that we
Yeah.
are looking into.
Yeah. Yeah, within our asset management system, we make H.264 proxies, but and that works very well for Media Composer. We do H.264 Media Composer proxies, and they will link automatically. With Premiere have a very hard set of rules about what happens to the audio and the audio track laying when you make a proxies. Now, if you do it through Adobe, it will always be correct. When we make proxies in that way, we tend to take everything and make a mono audio proxy from it. And that won't then relink with the toggle the proxies button in Premiere. But we are working on doing that. It just needs us to write some more code to support that toggle the proxies button. So we have a workaround for now, and we will get there probably over the course of the summer. I'd hope to have that by IBC time.
We'll be there.
Okay. Well, Paul and I will be there.
Yeah, we can't get out of there.
No, I have to do the stand design and provide all the media, so I'll be there a week before it starts. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Beer or both?
Yeah, why not? Gin.
No worries, sir. I don't know why it didn't start the first time. I think it tried to appear on a monitor that was over there.
When you're on these sorts of setups, and also the HDMI setup is also a bit personalised these days.
It does get a little bit freaky.
Audio and stuff travels over.
Let's go back to my screen only. It makes life easier.
Don't forget you've got your mic on still. Mic's still live. Don't want any keys and grey moments.
I did 10 years of live TV. I know about mics.